The great bank heist, the tragic story of South Africa's only wholly black-owned bank, VBS Mutual Bank. The bank is in a vegetative state. The examiner recommends that the life support machine be switched off because the rot runs too deep. 53 people and companies stand accused of bringing this 36-year-old institution to its deathbed. What are the political implications? Should the Reserve Bank hit the final nail in the coffin, especially in an election year? And how do political parties whose members are implicated recover from the reputational damage? I'm Aldrin Simpier. The Politbureau is now in session.
The recommendations and the findings are submitted to the Reserve Bank, which will apply its mind and decide whether it accepts the recommendations and the findings either in whole or in part. And if they do accept them, they will then recommend or pass those recommendations on to the law enforcement officers, who will also follow the same process. And we hope, with the amount of investigation that has gone there, the integrity of the evidence that has been secured, this will make a job easier for the National Prosecuting Authority to effect some arrests and to prosecute people.
Robert Madzonga is one of the accused. He's a former chief executive officer of VBS and its CEO of the biggest investment arm, Vele. He joins us now in studio. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
Let's first start with this. You've made it clear in a previous interview as well,
yes,
that you have been wrongly implicated.
Yes.
Let's explain that.
Well, Adrian, I think I've always been from the beginning when this thing happens to say, when the VBS saga happens, to say, I welcome the report, I welcome the investigation. In fact, I'm the only one, if people remember, when Vele took the curator appointment to court to stop him, I was the first one, and I'm the only one who went in to cancel a court challenge to allow the curator to do the investigation within the bank, because I believe there should be facts and the findings. So I supported him to do the investigation, both the curator and also the forensic. But now I want to tell you the one thing, that I think there's facts in there's some facts in the report, and there are some fictions in the report, assumptions which are made. For example, I'll speak only on my behalf only. When you go to point 59 of the report, which he deals with the finding regarding my involvement, he said that Robert Madzonga denied any involvement in the looting in VBS. He said, I also, Terry Mtao, cannot make a definitive finding as to the specific role what Robert may have played in the looting. However, because he is associated with the company called Vele, which has benefited, so by assumptions means he wants to make an assumption that because I was part of the Vele and Vele had a relationship with the VBS, then means I'm guilty.
What do you make then in the same paragraph where he says, this is now the advocate, says that Madzonga's denial of any knowledge or involvement in the fraud and theft rings hollow?
So because he's making an assumption that if you are a COO of an organization of Vele, which Vele had a relationship with VBS where Vele benefited in those loans, whether they were fictitious or whatever, I should have known that there's something Vele is doing wrong.
But shouldn't you have?
But Edred, let's use the same yardstick which he's making, because he's trying to make a yardstick which the media has been coming up with, which is wrong. Let's make the same yardstick. The Reserve Bank said I was supposed to take a position in 2016 of COO of VBS. The Reserve Bank said I was not qualified to be a COO. They brought in a qualified COO. Then I left and became COO of Vele. Now, the COO of VBS, where the looting was happening, he does not say he's supposed to know that the looting is happening here. The COO of another organization which has got nothing to do with VBS.
But Vele is the majority shareholder in VBS.
Yes, but
you must know what's happening.
It doesn't follow that when you are a shareholder, whether you are a majority or minority, in the bank you play the same role. PIC play the same role. Your role is just to watch your investment to see what is happening. There are board members, there are directors of VBS. There is the Reserve Bank, which has got a duty. Reserve Bank receive reports every week from VBS in terms of their affairs. Why couldn't they pick it up? And somebody who is not even part of the getting any report in information, you are sitting far away. I mean, the offices are in Sandton, and VBS is in Rivonia. So how are you supposed to know?
The report says that you had received, and this is amongst the 53 people that have been listed, that you had received 30 million rand, and this is in the gratuitous payments. And I know that you're going to make the argument that when you look at, what was it, paragraph 60 as well, where it actually details an amount of 39 million.
Yes.
Have you ever received any gratuitous payments from VBS?
There is no...
Whether it is 30 million, whether it's 39
million.
Whether it's
30 or 39 days in incorrectness, it doesn't make sense. The reality is there is no money. So let's go to that assumption. Because I was a COO of Vele, so meaning I should have known, if therefore every salary I received from July 2016, he is calculating that salary to say I should not have received that salary. Therefore, that is the amount he's trying to put in to say this amount I received was not legitimate. But it's a salary. Now, again, I put the 3 million from the FNB. He says that 3 million, because you were working for Vele, it also belongs to VBS, even if you took it from it because you earn it. It means you earn it from VBS. You earn it from Vele, and Vele has a relationship with VBS. So the 15 million, let's look at that fictitious story again. The 15 million he put there in point 30. This is the 15 million which I go into a friend like yourself to say, come and assist the bank. You come and put that 15 million. You give me the loan to put that 15 million. Now he's saying that 15 million anyway, we believe that individual you got that money from is tainted. That money, if you put down, it will come back to Vele. So he also included there. But that money is not paid to me. It is paid to VBS. That 15 million is with VBS.
Let's quickly touch on this one. The acquisition of VBS, the 53% stake in VBS, I'm not too sure whether at the time you were part of Vele, when it acquired the insurance company that allegedly then deposited 80 million rand into VBS and to buy these 8 million shares. Were you working for Vele at the time?
I was working for Vele as the COO.
Do you then agree with the finding that there was actually no payment that was made because this was a fictitious payment, as he puts it in the report?
Look, Adrian, I want to put it on record, and I've been on record, that as a COO, I was in charge of the operations. And operations means Vele had like 16 subsidiaries with their own CEOs.
So
I was not involved in the...
So you wouldn't know?
I wouldn't know because even in the report, the
whistleblower
said I was not part
It's strange that you plead ignorance even in the company that you worked for as a COO.
Now, you see, as a COO, there are certain roles. You are not a shareholder. A decision to buy an entity, if I work for you, a decision for you to buy an entity, it is not my decision as an employee. When you buy an entity, you bring it to me and you said, we bought another entity here. We want you to manage as a COO. But that's why even on the whistleblower report, in every report, it does not mention any meeting where I was involved in the negotiation of that or any meeting where I was part of the due diligence. I was only being part of saying, this company has now been bought, it's part of Vele. As a COO of operations, you must now liaise with the CEO of Insure to make sure that it follows the same logic, the same scenario.
The City Press today reporting that there was some pressure that some people were facing during the time of, we had the former president, President Jacob Zuma, still the president of the country, that when they were whistleblowing or people raised the red flag, that they would run then to the former president, who was still the head of state at the time. Do you know anything of this?
Well, I wouldn't, Edwin, because that is happening within the bank. And as you know, I was not working in the bank and I was not...
You just worked for a couple of months. You just worked at the bank for a couple of months.
I was there for 3 months, for a couple of months. And that time was before the looting happened. And there was no loan of even the so-called JZ loan. It wasn't there by then.
Do you then at least know about when the loan was eventually signed with the former president? I see the argument that one of, in this dispute around the kingdomship of Venda Masindi, the Princess Masindi, saying that there was some sort of influence from the king's side in terms of getting this loan for the president, and it was a special treatment.
Look, again...
and I'm asking you this as a major shareholder.
Yes.
And when the president of the country comes and asks for a loan at a company that you are the major shareholder in, I think that you should know about this, don't you think?
Look, knowledge of people, we know, even Reserve Bank knew about it. Every shareholder was told about it because that was the management because of the fact that it was including a high person of a high caliber.
Yeah.
So people were told, and as a shareholders, what our role was to say, make sure every tick and tick is done correctly. And if you recall, they have done no one complaint. It is done from the credit committee to the board of VBS. From the board, it went to the Reserve Bank, to the National Treasury, and they all give a green light.
Is it then strange that in these court papers, one of the arguments is that while the loan was signed in 2016, the bond was only registered in 2017, and this was around about the time when the Reserve Bank raised red flags around VBS's transactions?
Well, I wouldn't know because they wouldn't really bring that. That's operational issues from VBS. And if that happened, it will go to the board and the board of VBS. So it's not really a shareholder issue. We wouldn't know.
Are you among the people who will be taking this report in review?
Of course I am. Because of an assumption in fiction which is making. You cannot say you cannot find a role which a person has played. And then down the line you say the person has looted. But you can, if it's either I have been involved in the fraud or I'm not. And if I'm not involved in the fraud,
and then how does this then relate to your sequestration case?
No,
because the argument he makes in the report is that you're not opposing the sequestration case.
No.
Some point, I
No.
think.
I'm opposing the sequestration. Okay. And I think he's talking about Madzonga.
Okay.
So I'm opposing the sequestration because the sequestration is based on the media of saying Madzonga is a mastermind. Now, if you recall, Sunday Times, everybody was saying I'm a mastermind. You cannot have a mastermind whom you cannot find what he has done. Therefore, he also trying to find a reason to say, I must come to the predetermined conclusion that Madzonga is guilty, and therefore, similar things, he must have known that the fraud was happening. Therefore, every money he got must have been illegal. So I'm taking, with this report now, I'm going to court to say, now there's a report which says I have not been involved in the fraud. Now, what assumptions are you now making? So I'm challenging that.
Robert Madzonga, thank you so much for your time. Well, there you have it. Certainly a case that we'll be following closely as many other people are taking this report on review. After the break, we discuss the potential reputational damage two of Limpopo's biggest political parties, the EFF and the ANC, may suffer due to its members being implicated in the VBS saga.